Did you fall asleep watching The Mandalorian's third season? I did. It's not because I binge-watched the whole thing, or stayed up late to watch the finale. It was 5:30 in the afternoon, and I was watching the first episode. My brain decided that shutting itself down would be a more engaging activity than watching Shiny Man fail to shoot a handicapped droid from 5 feet away. We all went into the latest Mando episodes with different expectations. For many, it was cautious optimism. After Disney's epic fumbling of Boba Fett and Kenobi, my optimism was more watered down than a can of Foster's. Yet, even I was disappointed. What went wrong, you might ask? After all, the relatively coherent story of the first season provided a simple but decent foundation for future episodes, and the show certainly looked the part. However, this season's suspiciously slack-jawed storytelling didn't spring from nowhere. Despite the glowing reviews that the first 2 seasons enjoyed, many issues have been present from the beginning. It's my quest here to expose each and every failing which pervades the flimsy Star Wars tale. In this video, I'll be looking into the dialogue, but as the Mandalorian himself has taught us, there's never a bad time to start a side quest. So, let's make a quick detour to ancient Rome to get a taste of what good dialogue can achieve.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
That right there is the protagonist of Ridley Scott's Gladiator, explaining his motivations directly to the audience. Maximus is forced to unmask himself and reveal his true identity to the villain of the story, who happens to be the murderer of said wife and child. Here's how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni attempt to explain Mando's motivations in Season 3, Episode 1.
It's complicated. I completed my quest. He returned to me. I removed my helmet, and now I'm an apostate.
Later, from the same episode, we get this.
I am going to Mandalore, so that I may bathe in the living waters and be forgiven for my transgressions.
Together, those 2 quotes sum up Mando's situation and objective at the start of Season 3. The task of the writers for both scripts seems to be similar. So why does Russell Crowe's monologue send shivers down your spine, while Mando's lines feel drier than the Dune Sea? Millions of people have actively searched for this short clip of Gladiator because there's actually some meaning behind his words. Putting aside Gladiator's exquisite music cues and the fact that Pedro Pascal's delivery is about as excitable as a damp mushroom, let's look at the writing of both statements in detail. There are a lot of similarities between these 2 men. Both are spurned by the society they once called their own. Both derive a sense of purpose and an occupation from their martial lifestyle. Both had their homeland suffer the punishment of a paranoid tyrant who seized the central position of power. Both use a helmet to obscure their face from the eyes of the public. We can go further. For much of the movie, the Gladiator is referred to as the Spaniard instead of his real name.
Decimus Maximus Meridius, Maximus Meridius.
Once taken as a slave, he is known only for hailing from the Spanish province of the Roman Empire, while our Chrome Dome bounty hunter gained his mysterious moniker from his upbringing in the Mandalore system. Where the similarities end is the quality of the writing. Mando tells while Gladiator shows. You might wonder what I mean by this. Aren't they both telling, not showing? Lots of people misinterpret the show don't tell rule. They think it means that it's always better to convey plot or character information visually, not verbally. Nothing could be further from the truth. The best stories we humans have ever told convey meaning through every facet of the narrative available. In Gladiator's case, this means the choice of the words, the order of the words, and why he is speaking the words. Dialogue is not a line of computer code that should perform a single task and nothing more. The best possible line of dialogue might have 4 different interpretations and achieve character growth, plot development, and world building all at the same time. With that in mind, let's see how Disney's writing holds up here. We start off poorly, with Din stating that,
It's complicated. I completed my quest. He returned to me.
So, what insights does this deliver? First of all, the events of the Book of Boba Fett, which led to this statement, aren't really that complicated. After making an insultingly contrived choice between life with Mando and life with Luke, Grogu is dropped into an active war zone like some sort of Call of Duty care package. Grogu's return in the finale of Boba Fett wasn't caused by a change in Luke's perspective, or by Mando experiencing a change of heart and flying back to Luke's temple to take back his son. It happened because Disney wanted their green toy to save Mos Espa and then remain a prominent part of the show for cuteness points.
It's complicated.
This line attempts to portray the situation as fluid, when it is simply the culmination of abysmal writing which does not believe that meaningful events need to have meaningful consequences. It's a functional statement because not everyone will be aware of the events of the Boba Fett show. And that's all it really is, functional. The only purpose of the line is to inform the audience about the events in the plot. The rest of the lines are just bland.
I removed my helmet, and now I'm an apostate.
If instead he said, "They now call me apostate," it might highlight some sort of growing frustration with the overzealous cult he's a part of. Then again, as we've already observed in this episode, leaving the cult means nothing. As long as you can help the Mandalorians with their giant crocodile pest control problems, you can waltz right in despite your broken vows. All Din can do is admit that he's an apostate. Technically true, but story-wise, meaningless. It's like he's playing Skyrim and browsing his list of active effects. He does not receive any debuffs from this apostate status effect. It gives him no stress, no illness, no lack of access to powerful weaponry, but it is mildly annoying, so he will remove it. Then we get to the second half.
I am going to Mandalore, so that I may bathe in the living waters and be forgiven for my transgressions.
There's nothing really wrong with this line, but it's now becoming repetitive. We've heard the armourer say it several times, in much the same way, with the same delivery. It makes Mando sound like a grounded schoolboy who is relaying the scolding the teacher just gave him to his parents. The dialogue lacks any dynamic words which might give us a peek behind the Beskar helmet and into that huge brain of his. Instead of saying, "I'm going," why not say, "I will go," showing determination, or "I hope to go," showing trepidation. I'm not paid to write this show though, so let's move on to
Maximus Decimus Meridius.
what messages go unspoken during the Spaniard's unveiling speech. Firstly, he refers to himself as a commander in the present tense. According to Maximus, he is still rightfully the general of the same Felix legions he led into battle time after time. Even in chains, his years of service command a respect that most free men could only dream of. Maximus still considers himself a loyal servant to the old Emperor Marcus Aurelius, not the murderous son Commodus who now commands Rome. The Gladiator respects the wishes of a dead man over the wishes of the current living emperor, and that reveals quite a lot. Of course, our hero hates Commodus for good reason, but it also shows he believes in Rome as some higher ideal, deserving of a leader who holds the people's interests at heart. To Maximus, Rome is not simply an amalgam of wealth and power which can be occupied by any degenerate willing to murder their way to the top. The Spaniard does not waver when explaining the tragic slaughter of his wife and son, demonstrating what we might call composure. He then publicly accuses the Emperor himself of the murder in front of 50,000 people, demonstrating what we might call testicular fortitude. To bring us home, we learn that this man contains within him such righteous fury that he will pursue Commodus into the f***ing afterlife until his crimes have been answered for. To summarise, the dialogue isn't really there to explain what's going on, because this has already been made blatantly obvious through excellent writing in the prior scenes. Instead, it defines Maximus as a foil to Commodus. It offers a glimpse into the serene rage contained within him. It demonstrates his confidence and determination, his acceptance of death, his strive for Rome to rise above the unpredictable despotism of emperors. In The Mandalorian, Din's statements are simply reminders. They don't really offer any insight into why he wants to be accepted back into the tribe so badly. They just state he does. Most of the things characters say are like the opening crawl you get at the start of each Star Wars movie. It's set up for the viewers so they understand what's happening, plus some basic character motivation. But that's all it is doing. It's dull and dry writing. This type of dialogue isn't just a Season 3 problem. You can find it throughout the whole show. Just for fun, let's swap the two scenarios. First, we'll have Maximus deliver his monologue in a Filoni Favreau style as a stream of pure information to a friend and nothing more.
I defeated the Germanic tribes. I was chosen to be the next emperor, but Commodus betrayed me. I was forced into exile, and now I'm a slave. I'm going to the Colosseum so that I may fight the murderer of my family and be avenged of my losses.
Great, we've summed up his motivations in a Wikipedia paragraph. Where's my check from Disney? We'll now do the opposite by attempting to give Din Djarin a Gladiator-style monologue in the Geonosian arena. Let's imagine that Bo-Katan and the Armourer work together to betray him. The former wants to gain power, and the latter wants to punish him for his apostasy. Both characters led him into a trap laid by a rival Geonosian bounty hunter. In the scene, Bo-Katan is watching our hero battle waves of alien creatures in an effort to wear him down. She wants a final duel against him to secure possession of the Darksaber, but like Commodus, she wants to fight a weakened opponent. The Armourer just hopes to make an example out of him. After Mando defeats a Mudhorn, this time using his wits instead of a Force Ex Machina, the Geonosian king asks for the name of this mighty warrior, and while staring straight at Bo-Katan, this is what he says.
My name is Din Djarin, son of Concordia, Knight of Mandalore, vanquisher of Gideon's Imperial Remnant, father to a green imbecile, and I will return our people to Mandalore, with or without the help of the one who doomed it.
And he raises the Darksaber to point at Bo-Katan. Because in my version, we'd acknowledge the fact that she has no right to be demanding control of a planet she led to destruction twice in a decade. Ever since the yeeting of Baby Yoda during Season 2's finale, bizarre pacing and structural problems in successive Mando episodes have exposed the bankrupt writing that undermined this Lucasfilm flop from the start. One of those issues is the dialogue. This show has always portrayed its main character as a man of few words, a Clint Eastwood in space, if you will. This is all well and good if you can come up with some slick one-liners and retorts. Sadly, these writers can't. They prefer to have him dump exposition for the audience or repeat, "This is the way," constantly, like an NPC. If you want to preserve the mystique of your jaded, cynical hunter, for the love of God, don't pair them with a mute toddler. Then they're forced to be the talkative one, but all there is to talk about is what they are doing. What makes this even stranger is that Pedro Pascal is in a show which executed this premise 1,000,000 times better. The Last of Us paired the gruff character of Joel with the plucky character of Ellie to allow for some conflict and disagreement on their journey together. Joel putting up a cold, hostile front against an annoying teenager is understandable. In the harsh world that Joel inhabits, it's the best way to snap her out of the childish mindset she possesses and to keep her safe. Mando, putting up the same front against the green imbecile, would be borderline neglect. So he ends up doing way too much talking with a stupid baby instead of having meaningful conversations with rational adults. In light of this, you'd think that Din would jump at the chance to talk with any people his age. Perhaps we could find out what he really thinks of his clan, or of the Empire, or what he would do to improve Mandalore once it's been colonized again. I'll save my thoughts on the characters of this show for another video. For now, if you wish to be redeemed, you must venture to the section below this video to like and subscribe.